And I don't really know what to answer because the question. What can I have the question again?
Welcome to part 2 of my adventures here in Skopje, Macedonia. My name is Palle Bo and this is the Radio Vagabond podcast. As I said in my latest episode, I was asked if I would like to be interviewed by a magazine and a newspaper about my journey and about radio. And since it's both subjects I love to talk about, of course I said yes. In the interview they wanted to hear a lot about who I was and what I've been doing in my life, about being a co-founder and co-owner of 10 local radio stations in Denmark, about me doing telephone pranks and a lot more.
Jokes with Palle Bo,
Да, jokes with Palle Bo. Humor sa Palle Bo.
The conversation all of a sudden took an unexpected direction. I was asked about Hitler, Roosevelt, Trump, over Orson Welles, back to Shakespeare's Hamlet. What is rotten in the state of Denmark? And one of the articles got a headline that made me think, oh, did I really do that? Or has my memory been erased? Anyhow, we were a bit lost in translation. Listen to what I'm saying right here.
Are you still owner of this radio stations, or you sold everything so you could start traveling?
No, I'm still a co-owner. I have 10%.
I feel that it's pretty clear that I say that I'm still a co-owner of the radio stations. But the headline of the article, even on the cover of the magazine, was Palle Bo says, I've sold 10 radio stations so I can travel around the world. Never mind. The rest of the article was okay. I was also asked a few questions that I would never have guessed I would be asked in an interview about what it's like to be a long-term traveler and a digital nomad.
Okay. He mentioned Hitler and how he used the radio actually for, to influence the masses. And also Roosevelt because he was in a wheelchair.
I was asked if I thought that Hitler would have been in power today where TV is stronger because he was so ugly, and what about Roosevelt who was in a wheelchair, and what about Donald Trump who's been made famous by a reality show on TV? I had no idea what to answer, but I wanted to be polite and answer something brilliant and insightful. While my head was spinning, I was also trying to keep my cool and not say anything offensive. So to gain some time, I said, "Oh, that's a good question. I don't know where to start."
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know where to start.
As if I would have a lot to say about this subject, which I absolutely didn't have. I'd rather just be talking about myself, my favorite topic. So after a long pause, I just said,
and I don't really know what to answer because
I have no idea what to answer.
What can I have the question again?
Please notice my almost panicky laughter. I was almost starting to look for the nearest exit. But he kept on going, he was persistent, and he didn't want to let me off the hook, so then I gave him some loose talk about Roosevelt, that he seemed presidential to me on the pictures I've seen, but that I didn't know much about the history around it, and that it was kind of a hypothetical question.
To me, but I couldn't tell if.
But what about Trump? Is it because of his TV career with reality shows that he's been made a presidential candidate? And for this I answered, with his face and his hair, I don't think it's helped him being on TV.
No, with his face and his hair, I don't think it helps him being on TV.
Yeah, that's true.
But in the article it said, with his face and haircut, I'm surprised how he could be on TV at all. Not quite the same, but never mind. After this, we talked about my traveling and about radio, and I finished off what I feel was kind of philosophical with a quote from Hans Christian Andersen.
The Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen, he was traveling a lot in his time, and he said to travel is to be alive. And being Danish as well, I live by Hans Christian Andersen's words.
And then off to a photo shoot and another brief interview. All in all, it was a fun and different afternoon with me in the spotlight. You can see both articles with an English translation in my show notes.
This place we are now, it's a small village in the mountain that's been built as a sort of a live museum.
The hill actually is called Vodna. It's the nearby hill to Skopje. And we are in the courtyard of the monastery Pantelimon. And the ethno village that you're speaking of is above it. It's recently built. I think it was open in June this year. Mm-hmm. And it shows houses, typical village houses from different parts of Macedonia. So if you want to visit Macedonia and do not have the time to go to every place, I would suggest to come to Skopje and visit the ethno village. Mm-hmm. Although it shows very small number of houses, but still you get the feeling of life. How was it maybe 50 years to 100 years ago? Because now everything looks alike around the world.
Yeah, and also there's a small museum showing
jewelry. That's a very nice thing.
And clothing.
Yeah. That's really that's the things I like. When I grew up, my grandmother had clothing like that. It's a typical folklore dress. There are different types. You have one for daily use, and you have one for dances, and you have one to go to a wedding, and you have one when you are a bride-to-be.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
And they work through the details, and they are very colorful, and there are silver, I don't know, it's like plates and like butterflies. My grandmother had a butterfly that you put around your stomach actually, and it's very nice and typical for the western part of Macedonia.
And from here we have a view of Skopje.
Well, it's a nice view actually, because we're above, I think, 200 meters above Skopje. So it's a nice view. In the evening it's much nicer when you have all the lights, so it's like a romantic place to be.
Skopje had a big earthquake a little over 50 years ago.
Yeah, Skopje was almost destroyed during this earthquake in '63. 80% of the city was destroyed, and it had a lot of victims, I think around above 5,000 actually.
It was rebuilt with help from all over the world?
Yeah, correctly. So we have help coming from Japan, and Japanese architects and civil engineers constructed some of the buildings to be more stable, considering that Japan is facing earthquakes on a daily basis, to say. And and there was help arriving from the Scandinavia, from all over the world, even Mexico, and it was unbelievable actually. And it was built pretty quick from the help. And unfortunately, 1 week ago we had another
natural
disaster. Yeah, it was a flooding.
And that was right over in that area.
Yeah, correct.
In the left of the city from where we are.
Yeah, it's just a village outside of Skopje, and it was just 3.5 hours rain. I think it was 93 liters per square meter, but it was I don't know, nobody expected it. So within these 3.5 hours we lost 22 people, and I think 10 more are missing.
It created a flood, and were houses destroyed? Or?
Houses, everything is destroyed. The whole area is destroyed. So again, their help is arriving around the world. People are organizing. Actually, Macedonian people are very supportive, and they have hearts of angels. And whenever something happens like this, they are like overnight, you can see people gathering, helping others. Considering they do not have much, they actually can give you everything they have. And it was the same when floods happened, I think last year in Serbia, but they really had much more damage, and the first help arrived from Skopje, from Macedonia.
There hasn't been an earthquake like the one in '63, but there are small earthquakes all the time.
Yeah, correct. Because we are Skopje is in some tectonic area, and there are movements.
Have you felt some?
Yeah, actually, I was out one night. I think, in high school, and I was sitting on the ground, and of course you feel something. But I thought a truck was passing by because I never felt an earthquake before, so it was very funny feeling. And there was another one because my aunt, she was in Skopje during the earthquake, so they felt it really. The people that were living it through, actually, they can feel the least movements. Mm-hmm. And she was on the phone with my sister, and it was so funny. They were talking, and probably the earthquake was at that time, and my sister was telling a story, and then out of a sudden, nobody's on the other line because my aunt, who is still living actually on the fourth floor, was running out the door and out of the building because of the fear she had.
Yeah, she had felt just a little bit and thought, I gotta get out there.
Yeah, because actually a lot of the victims in '63 died for the follow-up earthquake. Because the first, of course, but then there was a follow-up, and nobody you're not thinking at that time because you're trying to save other people or to save your things and stuff, because it's a sudden thing and you cannot plan stuff like that. So that's why.
The former Yugoslavia has been divided into 7 countries. That is, if you count Kosovo as a country. Kosovo is not a member of the United Nations, but 109 countries, including the United States and various members of the European Union, have recognized Kosovo as an independent nation. Also, they were in the Olympics this summer. To me, it's a bit confusing about the languages spoken in ex-Yugoslavia, so I wanted to know if all nations in the former Yugoslavia speak the same language.
No, actually, now, after the fall of Yugoslavia, every republic has its own language, but all of them are Slavic languages, of course, and Macedonian and Slovenian language, a little bit different, and the others are very much similar. For example, when I was in school back then, we learned in Macedonian language, but we had to learn also Serbo-Croatian, which is the official language, but it was called Serbo-Croatian language. And afterwards, after all of the countries got their independent status, they, of course, had their languages changed into Serbian for the Serbs, and then Croatian for Croatians. And now we have also Bosnian, and we have Montenegrinian, and each country is trying to I'm sorry, I'm not an expert, but it seems like they're trying to invent words or to change words so there would be more differentiation between the languages. But still, it's a one family, so everybody understands each other.
So, Zoran, where do you think this is going to end? If I see you in 2, 3, 4 years' time, where's Macedonia at that point?
Well, I'm afraid about the future, because it's a successful concept. It just started here and it's spreading around. The same process is going on in Serbia now, because it's a successful concept. The concept of the ruling party and getting the judiciary system, the media system, and all the other systems by the country ruled by the party, not by the democratical mechanisms, is so successful and went to this far. So it will be spread around. So I think the world democracy, in a way, is endangered by this concept.
Could it end bloody?
There is a potential, because there is a very big segregation between, not on ethnic basis, on political basis. It is happening in the families. If one is supporter of one party and the other is supporting the other party, they just have problems communicating. So it's a big division, and that in the same time is potential. It builds potential on both sides. And it goes, in a way, the phrase civil war is not foreign to us, People are mentioning it.
My next stop will be Belgrade. That was the capital of Yugoslavia. Now it's the capital of Serbia. And I'm really looking forward to it. Before I leave Skopje, I want to say thank you so much to all the nice people I met here. Especially, of course, to Aphrodite for helping me so much and being my local tour guide for the last few days. Everybody was very friendly to me. I only wish I could have stayed in Macedonia longer and maybe also see the southern part of the country. But that has to be another time. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. You can also follow me on Twitter, The Radio Vagabond, and on Instagram, Palle Bo. These are all in English. My Facebook page, Palle Radio Vagabond, is partly in English and partly in Danish. My name is Palle Bo, and I gotta keep moving. See you.